Hey guys, it's Masai here, and today I'm going to show you how you can connect your voice over internet provider and your AI note taker summarizers into Clio, right? So you can automatically have the summaries and transcripts of whatever calls you're having automatically uploaded to the correct contact in Clio. If you don't know me, my name is Masai and I help small law firms get the most out of their existing tech stack with automations just like these. So I'm going to show you how you can build out this automation or an automation similar to it that is going to take whenever an event happens in Fireflies, it's going to take the transcript, it's going to actually clean the transcript up, turn it into a text file, upload that to the correct contact in Clio so that you can actually get the file showing up. So if I show you, this is my name here. Lovely. And what you can do is just download the transcript of video that I just uploaded to Fireflies. And I'll have that here on my computer. I'll show you how you can set all that up in Fireflies. This can work just as easily in Read or whatever you use. But for this example, we're going to use Fireflies. You'll come to Fireflies, the main page in Fireflies. You'll come down to Settings. You'll come to Developer Settings. And then you'll come into the webhook section, right? So you just want to get here. And then wherever you're going to build your automation, you're going to set up a webhook, right? So I have a webhook here. And for example, if we're in N8N, all you would do is come over to the plus button, click plus, and then search for webhook. And then you're going to want to set the webhook method to a post method, and you can change the name, right? So it can be like Fireflies YouTube demo, for example, demo. And then in N8N in particular, you're going to want to make sure that you choose not the test URL, but the production URL. And you'll just copy that. You'll come over to Fireflies, into the webhook section, and then you will paste that in here. So that lets Fireflies know that whenever anything happens, a transcript is created or summaries are finished, then we're going to send everything to this webhook when that happens, right? So that's how you get the webhook set up. This is what the actual data looks like when it comes from the webhook. So we have all the headers are here, but what we get back is the ID of the meeting and the type of event that we're receiving, essentially. And what we can do from here is we're going to use the Fireflies node to get the transcript. Now, the Fireflies node in N8N is a little bit particular because I don't think it's available on cloud. What you'll have to do is, if you're self-hosting in N8N, you'll come to your settings, you'll come to community nodes, and then you'll just install the Fireflies node. So you just go to install. You'll want to copy and paste this exact text, N8N-nodes-fireflies. You'll go to install, paste it here, click I understand, then you can install the Fireflies package. So you can actually use Fireflies. And then from there, what you'll do is you'll click the plus button, you'll search for Fireflies, and then you'll choose get a transcript. From here, we're going to have to set up your Fireflies credential, right? So what we're going to be doing is you'll probably see something that says create a new credential. You'll go ahead and create a new credential. And then you want to grab the API key, which is going to be, again, in the developer docs. Handy. So it's API key here. It's going to copy it, come back to N8N, and then you can paste it, and then click save, and then that will set up your Fireflies account. So let's close that. And then the resources transcript. That's cool. Anyways, we're going to be getting the transcript. That's cool. I guess we can get the summary too. So you can get the summary, video URL, audio URL, analytics. But for now, we're just going to get the transcript. And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to grab the ID of the transcripts from the webhook from the previous step. So again, if we come to the data of the webhook, we're just grabbing the meeting ID here, dropping that in here. And then from there, we'll be able to get the transcript data coming into this node here. And so we can see we have the ID, and then we also have the sentences coming through. They come through as an array where it lets us know which sentence is first, second, et cetera, et cetera. Then it will give you the speaker names here, IDs of speakers. And then really what we want to just take is the raw text and the name of the speaker. And essentially from there, what we can do is use a little bit of code, which I'll leave this for you guys in the template, which is going to be in the description. So if you want to get the template, just go down to the description, you can get the template. But we're just running a little bit of code here that is going to organize our transcript. So it's going to take all that data and basically organize the transcript. So if we run this, now instead of getting what you see here on the left. So we take all these sentences, the raw text of the sentences, all that data, and we actually compile it into a transcript where we have the first speaker, second speaker, etc., all talking back and forth. We have the title also. If there's a title from Fireflies, we'll have that title in here. We have the meeting ID getting passed through. But we just want to clean that transcript into one value, into one variable that we're going to call transcript, so that later on down the line, we can convert this transcript into a file. And also, if you ever want to run code in N8N, it's just you come to the plus button on the right, you search for code, and then you can write your JavaScript in here. I haven't tried Python yet, but JavaScript is really useful in here. Then from here, we're going to convert this transcript into an actual file. So now again, we're going to come to the plus sign. We're going to choose or search for JSON, and then you want to just choose convert to file. And then the type of file that we're going to convert to is converting to a text file. So when you come here, you go convert to file, you want to choose text file, right? Obviously, we already have one, but that's what you want to choose. Then from there, you just want to map the text input field, which is transcript, into this text input field, and the output field is going to be data, which that should already be in there. And then from here, what we're doing is we're taking this text and we're turning it into an actual text file, right? So this is the text file that we're going to get. Now we have sort of the complicated stuff, which is working with the Clio API to upload files. It would be great if it was just one node to upload files to Clio, but unfortunately it's not. Here's where, if you wanted to make this super useful for yourself, what you would want to do is you'd want to create a data table in N8N. Let's say Clio contact data. Create this. And then from here, what you could do is you could add some fields in here for name of your clients, their phone number, say phone, and then the email of your clients. You could have that in here as well, right? And then that way, what we could do is we could check against this database for phone numbers and emails and determine whether someone's a contact or is not a contact. If you guys want to see a video of actually how to do that, then let me know. Drop a comment in the comments below. Let me know if you actually want to see that. But that's how you would basically make this maximally valuable to you, right? Is you would have basically a copy of all of your Clio contact information in N8N, and then you'd be able to check against that to actually determine whether contacts exist or not, and then to actually upload to contacts from there. So that's basically how that would work. But for this specific demo, I'm just grabbing a contact information that I already know. Once we've converted this to a text file, have this run and create that file for us, then we want to get the contact's information, right? And this is where, if you were to have that database set up to where you had all your Clio contact information in N8N, then you could just figure out if the phone number was matching. You could pull in the matching Clio ID for that matching phone number. And then what you would do is you'd pop it into this URL here. And so this is hitting the Clio API, the contacts API, and then we're taking the contact ID, which I've just grabbed here from this URL. So we're grabbing the contact ID, and we're also grabbing a few fields. So we're getting the ID of the contact. We're also getting the name. And then really important, we're getting a few values from the folder. So we're going to get the ID of the folder and the name of the folder. And these are two different IDs. So the contact ID and the folder ID are two different things. And what we need to do in order to upload the file to this folder is upload to the folder ID and not the contact ID. So if I run this step, then you'll see here, this is the contact ID and the contact name. And there's also a matching folder with a different ID and a different name. And we're going to be using this folder ID, which in the next step we're going to save. So in the next step, we're going to use a set variable step. So we come again to the nodes panel, click the plus button in the top right, search for a set. And then we're just setting folder underscore ID to the value of the folder ID here. And you want to just drag and drop that in here. And that's how we're going to set the folder ID. So that's what we're doing in this node, is we're setting a variable for folder ID. And then from here, we're going through the process of uploading to Clio, right? Which is, again, is a 3-step process. If you've never set up the Clio credential in N8N, I'll leave a link to a video that I have that walks you through how to set that OAuth 2 credential up, how to get your app ID and your app secret so you can actually work with so that you can actually work with the Clio API. So I'll leave that video link in the description for you guys. But we're going to need our credential set up. So it's going to be an OAuth 2 credential. And then from here, we're going to be sending off a post request to upload a document. And so you just want to copy the same exact URL, app.clio.com/API v4 documents. And then the fields are really important here. We need the ID. And then we also need some information about the latest document version. So this is going to be the unique, I believe it's unique universal identifier. We need the put URL and the put headers. We need to return all that information because we're going to use it in the next steps to actually upload the document to Clio. And then when you come into this node, this is going to be unchecked. So you want to check it, make sure you're sending the body over. Then the body content type is going to be JSON, and you're going to specify the body not using fields below, but using JSON. And from here, the body is going to have this data value in it. And then within the data object, we're going to have a name, which you can set to whatever you want the name to be. Just keep a note of every time this runs, it's going to use the same name. And so sometimes you can set the name dynamically, right? So you can say, if we come back to getting a transcript, we could take the title of the transcript and set that as the value for the name so that it's not that title, right? So that it's, the title of the file, transcript.txt. You could do that. I'm not going to do that for this demo. I'm just going to leave it as this, but you can set this name to whatever you want. The content type has to match the type of file that we're uploading. So if this was a PDF file, it would be application/PDF, but it's not a PDF file. It's a text file. And so we're going to make sure content type is text for this, text plain. The parent is going to be the folder ID. And so that's the ID that we set in the previous step. That's this ID here. You're just going to drag and drop that in here into this section here, and make sure the comma comes afterwards. And then type is going to be folder, and that pretty much rounds out the body. Obviously, if you're going to go through and do it yourself, then go through and do it. And if not, there is, again, the template is in the description if you want to just copy and paste the template and get rolling using that. So that's the body for the post request. When we send this off, it's kind of interesting because, again, the process of uploading to Clio is a multiple step process. But because we asked for specific information from the latest document version, we're going to get back the universal unique identifier for the document. And we're also going to get back a URL, a put URL, I believe that's on AWS, and some headers for the security aspect of being able to upload a file to Clio. So this information is important because we're going to use it in the next steps. Then we use a merge node. So we take the value of the file itself. We want to make sure we get that file data in. And we also want to get the information about the latest document version. So here we have the binary of the file itself is here. We can see that here. And then we also have the JSON about the latest document version, the unique ID, the put URL, and the put headers. And then we're going to use the put URL in the URL section of the put request. So we're going to come to the JSON, grab the put URL, drop that into the URL section. Make sure that your method is a put method, not a post method or patch or anything like that. It's going to be a put method. No authentication is needed. And then for the headers, you want to just take the name and value of each header and map that here. And you want to make sure you add 2 headers here, right? So you want to turn on headers, then specify the headers using the fields below, grab the name, drop it in here, grab the value, drop it in here, and do the same thing again. And then for the body content type, it's going to be init in binary file. Input data field name is going to be whatever the name is here, which 9 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10, if you don't change it, it's going to be data. So just leave that here. And this is sending this file to the specific URL that we've gotten back from our initial post request. Then after that, we're going to have a short wait for a minute. This is just making sure that we're actually getting the file uploaded to the URL that it's supposed to be uploaded. I want to make sure it gets completely uploaded before we mark it as complete, because I wouldn't want to mark it as complete prior to the actual upload happening. So we're going to let this run for about 60 seconds. 60 seconds is probably overkill. You could probably wait less. So you could probably wait less. You could probably wait 5 or 10 seconds, but just to be sure, we're going to wait 60. And then once that wait is done, we can run the last step, which is going to mark the upload as complete for Clio. which I'm actually going to walk you through this node as we're waiting on that. So this is a patch request. This is going off to the document ID, which we got from the post request. So you can either grab it from the post request or from the merge node. And then we're just filling out this URL here. So again, app.clio.com, API v4. The ID is going to be the ID from either the merge node, this ID here for the document, or it's going to be the ID from creating the document, right? Because it's the same ID. So right underneath the data object, this ID here, we just want to drag and drop that after the document section. And then for fields, we have ID and some information about the latest document version. Oh, and so this is actually pretty important. You want to make sure that after that, the value that we get from the latest document version is this here, the fully underscore uploaded. And that pretty much rounds out this URL that we're going to need. Then again, make sure we have our credential set up. A generic credential type is what we're going to choose, and OAuth 2 API, and then whatever your name is for your Clio connection. Turn on the body. Body content type is going to be JSON. We're going to specify the body using JSON. And then we want to make sure that we're sending over two values. So we have the data object, and then within the data object, we're sending over the unique universal identifier, which is again coming from either the merge value or from the post request. It's just this value here that comes underneath the latest document version. So we have that unique identifier. We're dropping that in here. And then we want to set the value of fully uploaded to true. And once we've done all that, we can execute this step. And then when I come back to Clio, I can see that now instead of one transcript being in here, we have two transcripts here. So that's basically how you would connect Fireflies to Clio. Now I'm going to show you how to do a voice over internet provider. Now we're moving on to the next part, which is connecting a voice over internet provider into n8n, so we can do the same thing where we can get transcripts, call summaries, notes taken, all that kind of stuff, get that stuff into Clio automatically. And for this voice over internet provider, we're going to use Quo. We're going to use Quo. And Quo is OpenPhone. It's the same thing. It just, they changed their name. So if we go OpenPhone, yeah, they changed their name to Quo. I don't know why, but it's just OpenPhone. So I'm going to show you I can set everything up and then get that connection set up for you in n8n. So first thing you're going to do is obviously you need a Quo account. You'll come into your account and you'll come into the settings section. So you just come down to settings. Once you're in settings, you come down to API, and then you're going to generate an API key. And once you have that key, just make sure, you'll be able to copy it at any point, but just generate an API key. You can call it whatever you want. So generate a key, you can call it whatever you want. Click create key, and then you'll have an API key that you can use for automations on the line. Then from there, we're going to create a webhook. So if you come to the documentation, the Quo documentation, which is, or OpenPhone documentation. So this openphone.com/docs should basically get you there. Then what we're going to do is we're going to create a new webhook for calls. And so what that's going to look like is, it's actually fairly simple, because what we can do is we can just grab this curl over here. We can copy this and we can take that into n8n and it will format the request for us. And so that way we don't have to do it manually, basically. But we're going to create a webhook, meaning that we're going to set something up that triggers real-time events. So every single time a call comes in and a call is completed, then we're going to have an event trigger in our workflow. And I've found in the work that I've done, I found that building your own webhooks is usually about 1,000 times better than using webhooks that exist on other automation platforms like Make or Zapier or whatever it is, because those webhooks tend to be unreliable. You don't really have that much granular control over them, and then you can't even see when they fail for whatever reason, you can't see the error logs for those. So I always recommend creating your own webhooks if you can. And what we're going to do is come over here to this curl section on the right, copy this, and then we'll come into our workflow in n8n, and we're going to set up these two nodes. So this is the first node where we're going to actually create the webhook. All you're going to do for this, grab an HTTP request. That's here. I can disconnect it from here. And then you're going to open it up. You're going to go to import curl right here in the top right of the node. And then you're going to paste the curl that we just copied and click import. And then as you see now, that just formats everything so that our request is pretty much ready to go. We just have to change a few different parameters in here. So the authorization, obviously where it says API key, you're going to copy and paste your API key here. So you'll go back to your settings in OpenPhone into API, and then you'll just copy this API key and paste it into init here. Then for the body, what you're going to do is for the URL section, you're going to paste the URL that you want the OpenPhone data to go to. So what that looks like is we're going to create a webhook in init. So what you do is you'll come over to the plus button, you'll search for webhook, you'll bring that here, and then you'll change the method of the webhook to post. You can change the name as well of the webhook. I'll call this YouTube demo hook. And then you want to make sure that when you're copying the URL, you don't copy the test URL. You want to copy the production URL. So copy the production URL, come into the HTTP request. You should already have your API key in here. And then you can click this little arrow on the bottom right to open up the JSON. And you'll just paste in that URL right here. And then for events, we can do call completed. This is just the events that are going to trigger our webhook. We can do call completed, or we can do what I've done, which is call recording completed. So once that call recording is complete, that will trigger our webhook. So if you have this call completed here, you can just literally go call, I believe it's call recording completed. So I'm just going to paste mine. And then we have call.recording.completed. Resource IDs we can get rid of. User ID you can also get rid of. And then the label is going to be whatever the name of you want the webhook to be called. So call this my webhook. And the status will be enabled. And once you have all that set up, which I'll actually do, grab my API key. Once you have all that set up, you can execute this step, and then your webhook will be created in Quo. So the URL here, the key, the status, all that good stuff, the label, all that good stuff. Then from here, we're going to need to be able to check whether the webhook exists or not. And a lot of these platforms, it's kind of strange. Even Clio is like this also. You can only see your webhooks via API. You can't check it on the platform itself. So what you have to do is configure a request to be able to do that. Again, you'll just come back to the code documentation. You'll come to the webhook section, and then this get request here to list all the webhooks. You're going to do the same thing again, where you just copy the curl in the top right, copy this, come back to init, grab an HTTP request from the node section, import the curl, paste the curl command. And you know what we could probably do? In this header section here, we can just put our API key in here right away instead of doing it later. So let me just copy my key. Guys, don't steal my API key. Anyways, and then import this here. And so now everything's already set up right away, and we can literally run this immediately right out the box. And we can see I have the two webhooks that I've set up. I have the name of the webhook here, the one that we just created, the my webhook here. So this is going to tell us all of the webhooks that we have, the events, all that good stuff. Yeah. So I have two of these. I might delete this one. I don't know, but that's how you set up that's how you create the actual webhooks and get them ready to listen to events in Quo or OpenPhone. And then we'll go through and see what a call looks like when I actually call the number and see what sort of data comes through. And then from there, we'll manipulate that data, get into a transcript format that's usable and workable, and then we'll upload that to Clio again. Okay, so now that we have the webhook connected already, I've gone and built out the flow to get it up into Clio, and I'm going to walk you through the entire thing. So once you get the data from Quo, from OpenPhone, the thing that we need is the ID. So this can be a little bit confusing because there's a couple of different IDs in here. You have this body value, and then you have the first ID, which is the ID for the event itself, for the call event itself, which is not what you need. the ID that you need is within the object essentially. And we need the ID from within that object. So we need to make sure we grab this ID. And what we're going to do is, moving on to the next step, we're going to format this HTTP request. You can go over to the documentation for OpenPhone. You'll come into get a transcription for a call, or whatever you want. If you want a transcription, get a transcription. If you want the summary of the call, get the summary. And then what you'll do is you'll just do the same thing we did before, where you copy the curl for it. You're going to copy that. You'll come over to the init-in. You'll import the curl, paste it, and click import. And then now what we have to do here is, I'll connect this webhook so you can see. We have to set this ID value dynamically to that ID from earlier on in the flow. So you'll get rid of this ID sort of faux variable. And then what you'll do is grab the ID, not from the first level of the body, but from within the object that's within the data. So you have the data object here, and within that data object, there's an object called object. And within that object, there's a value called ID. And you want to grab that ID, drop it in here. So that way we're always going to be dynamically setting the ID that we are pulling the information from. And then obviously you want to put your API key in here. And once you run that, you will get a value that looks like this. This is where you have the call ID, when the call was created, and then the actual dialogue. So this is me talking to a friend of mine that called me on OpenPhone. This is basically how the content is stored, right? So you have the content here. This value here is called content. This is actually what was said. And then this is started in value. So really what we want to do is be able to store the content along with the ID of the user, or be able to somehow say speaker 1 said this, speaker 2 said that kind of stuff, right? And this is where I think init-in has the advantage over basically any other automation platform, is because you can run code really easily in here. It's really seamless to be able to run a JavaScript snippet that just takes in all that input and then gives you out a formatted transcript where we have the caller 1 content and caller 2 content clearly organized. And then you could even, if you had IDs for certain people, you could also have their names sort of popping up in here. You could set up a way where you have like a lookup sort of dictionary where you have a person's name attached to a certain ID, and then that way you could know who was saying what in the call itself. So that way, that's how you build the transcript. We use a little bit of JavaScript code here to build that transcript out. And then from there, we're just following the exact same steps that we use to upload the file, or to create the text file and then upload that file into Clio. And literally what you can do is you can copy this part of the workflow, you can paste it down here, and you could connect. Once the transcript is formatted, you'll notice that the end of this workflow is the same as the end of this workflow. So literally we can just copy and paste that, because what we're doing here is we're creating the file the same way we did before, and then we are passing that file off to get uploaded to Clio in the exact same way as we did before. And the only thing that we need to change is this convert to file step. We're going to need to change the text input field, because now the text input field is formatted transcript, and this will have to be obviously matching this input field for the text to actually be able to create that text file, right? But we have this text file being created, and then we're uploading that file into Clio the same way that we uploaded it before. And if I come into my actual value for my contact in Clio, I can open it up and I can see the actual values of everything that was said on the call itself. And so I just want to stress, with a workflow like this is really basic. We're just taking a transcript from one place and putting it somewhere else. But that's not the end of this, right? You could add AI steps in here. You could have an LLM interact with this and analyze this transcript for you, right? You could have an AI agent at some point in this step that could decide whether to send emails to people or not, depending on the information that's in this transcript. You can connect to your Gmail account, to your Slack account, or whatever you want to connect to. You could even build out, like when we're talking about information like this, where we have information about contacts and transcripts going into certain matters, you can start to build out databases now with information, with all the call transcripts from different clients. And once we start in a really systematic way actually collecting and storing this data, now we can start to do much more powerful things when you're ready to move forward and actually start using AI. Because what you can start to do now is you can take these call transcripts and you can build out databases where you have your client information in here, where you have the content of different transcripts in here, where we have all of this information then vectorized in an embedding. And this is how we can build out RAG systems and have AI agents that know everything about every specific case, that you can obviously answer questions about it, but even as you start moving forward, you start to take some action and depending on what information they have on these different matters and cases. So this is a really basic use case of just moving transcripts from one place to another, but it's the foundation for moving data around, manipulating data, storing data in different places that will then allow you to build and do greater things with AI from here. So that's how you can connect your voice over internet provider and your AI note takers into Clio. But you could just as easily swap out OpenPhone for Dialpad or any other voice over internet provider. You could just as easily swap out Fireflies for Read AI or Fathom or any other note taker. And you could just as easily swap out Clio for any other case management or practice management system that has an open API. And then there's pipelines like these that will lay the foundations for you to have what everybody talks about now, context engineering, and get your data ready for AI. These are some of the types of pipelines that you will want to build so that your firm can be ready for the next steps it does take with AI. If you want to work with me to actually build out these workflows, and actually build out the plan for implementation and actually build out the real stuff, there's a link for that in the description. You can click on that if you want to. That's pretty much it for this video. So that's connecting voice over internet providers and note takers into case management systems. Hopefully this was really valuable and useful for you guys. Obviously the templates and everything will be in the description. You can get those for free. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you like the video, leave a like. Let me know if you like these style of videos. Leave a comment if there's anything else you guys want to see. Share the video if you want. Subscribe, turn on post notifications, all that stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you guys so much for watching this video if you made it all the way to the end, and hope you guys have a great day.